Welcome to the Oso Spurs podcast, where we will be diving into a Burnley preview. And along with me to discuss it all is Stuart over in Dubai. How are you, Stu?
I'm very well. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing good, thank you. The sun is shining, the pubs are overflowing, and I have a hope of a victory on the weekend with Spurs. And Jonny, how are you?
I'm raring for Saturday, mate. I can't wait. It's going to be an absolute goal fest, and they're going to be going in the right end.
I like the optimism, Jonny. But having had a look at Burnley's recent games and their recent results, and I read these off here, they don't look like a team that we're necessarily going to be able to walk over. They did get smashed by Newcastle most recently, but before then, they drew away at Old Trafford. They beat Sheffield United by 3 goals. They drew to Brighton, narrowly lost to Everton, who are fighting for their lives and playing well at this point. Then they drew to Wolves, drew to Chelsea. Then they beat Brentford. Then they drew to West Ham. That's not a set of results you associate to a poor team on paper, is it? Stuart, I'll start with you because you've got family members over in Burnley and you know a little bit about them. What are you expecting going into this one?
Yeah, I think as is typical, Spurs are playing teams at the wrong time. I think that Burnley struggled at the beginning of the season. I think Company made a big mistake. He didn't trust the squad that got them promoted. He brought in a lot of new players. And I think it was a huge mistake because they played fantastic football last season, real champagne football. And then he had to start from scratch again with a team that didn't know each other. And it's a different thing creating a team from nothing in the Championship compared to the Premier League. And they also invested a lot of money in Trafford, the England under-21 goalkeeper. And about, 10 games or so ago, he finally dropped him for the keeper that got them promoted, Muric. And the results have improved since because Trafford is a youngster, made a lot of mistakes. So yes, I don't think it is going to be particularly easy. They are playing quite well. That said, they do like to play football. So I don't expect them to be sitting back and putting in the low block, which, as we all know, frustrates us. We struggle with, and I think it actually might play a little bit into our hands. So I'm hoping our run of 4 games, losing every single one of them, will finally come to an end.
It desperately needs to. And Jonny, it sounds like you'd done some research before as well about the main threats in their squad, and it looks like the top goal scorer in the team only has 5 goals. So that does imply they have similar difficulties to us in the sense that there's no one on that forward line they truly probably trust week in, week out to be their kind of talisman player. But how are you feeling about the game in general?
I think one of the most interesting things that I've read in looking into this game is just interview with Vincent Company regarding basically the fact that he doesn't want the team to go out and have any regrets. He wants them to go all out, do themselves proud. And, I think that the fact that there's a lot of pressure on them, I hope that they have the willingness to follow his instructions because we've seen throughout the season that the times when we've performed best tend to be when we've been playing against sides that are much more open. And if Burnley do have the ambition to follow those instructions, then I think it'll definitely play into our hands. I mean, I obviously I was tongue in cheek at the beginning. I wouldn't want to be sounding disrespectful to Burnley, but I think that from the earlier part of the season, there seemed to be people saying that there's a Company had a naivety. Obviously, he did win the league as a rookie manager. His name has been mentioned whenever we were on the lookout for a new manager in terms of just like as Stu saying, the style of football that he'd like to play. And maybe it's a bit unusual that a time side down at the wrong end of the table to kind of want to play progressive football. So, I mean, I think from that point of view, that would make me feel a little bit more confident. I mean, you again, no disrespect, I'm not a nerd on other teams, and when I look at the names, I have not heard of half of them. I wouldn't know half of them, and I know that doesn't mean a whole lot, maybe, but it's not it's not an intimidating lineup. I mean, they've got Rodriguez. I assume that he's had a career where he's been massively affected by injuries. I assume that the fact that he's not one of the players at 5 goals is down to injury because he's out. Remember when he was at Southampton and Jay Rodriguez he's a good player, isn't he? I mean, like I don't know if that's the main reason why you think that he would be a threat. One assumes traditionally with a side like Burnley that they would be, the kind of the Dyche kind of thing, but I think obviously company is nothing like that whatsoever. So their stats aren't that impressive. I mean, you're right, Jim. Their last 6 games, they got 6 points. So it's better than relegation for them, but it's not brilliant. They did have a few kind of games maybe where they should have won and they didn't, and those draws, obviously, when they turn from would be victories into draws, that's a huge knock to be missing out on those 2 points, and that's kind of put them in a position where they have to win on Saturday. And I'm sorry to say that I don't think that. Well, I hope that they do lose on Saturday for obvious reasons. But I kind of like Burnley. I kind of like company. But unfortunately, I don't think they're gonna get anything out of Tottenham at the weekend. I think I'd be quite confident that we, as you said, we just have to win. We absolutely have to win, especially with the whole business with fifth. Like none of us won the Conference League, and we need to be careful with Newcastle. I wouldn't be worried about Man United, but we need to be careful with Newcastle. Like we do need to get those points.
But I do have some fears in the sense that Burnley are only 4 points from safety at the moment, and the team sitting in 17th is Nottingham Forest. And where I'm going with this is Nottingham Forest have got a game against Chelsea, I believe, next. So they're likely to lose that game based on the form of Chelsea at the moment, which would mean that if Burnley could find a way to beat us, they would be within 2 points of safety. And the last team they play this season is Nottingham Forest. So I think it's set. They know as a club, and they will very much be planning for the scenario that if they can beat us, they will go into the final game of the season playing the team they need to beat to stay up. And that's assuming Luton lose their last 2 games, which I'd say is very plausible. So yeah, it's not going to be easy. It'd just be so Spurs, wouldn't it, that we play them at the absolute worst time, like you say, Stu.
The only thing I would say is that we've often struggled up at Burnley, but when they've come down, we've tended to smack them quite easily. So I'm hoping that history does play a role somewhat there. But yeah, I mean, as you said, that they do need a point. They'll be fighting for their lives. No mistake about that. But I do think it will play into our hands. They aren't a side that do score a lot of goals and find it easy to score. Their efficiency rate in front of goal isn't great. So hopefully we get an early goal instead of conceding early for a change.
Yeah, and sorry if you can hear some crying in the background. My son is not wanting to have a bath tonight. But Johnny, do you see any differences in the lineup? Do you see Richarlison starting in this game?
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, I was playing around with what I would do, and it's like I'm finding it like there's certain things I'd like to do with the team, given the conversations we've been having, and given the opposition, and given I know there's pressure on us to win, but like, I mean, it is still, with all due respect, it is Burnley and we're at home, and I really want to see Dragusin playing, and I really want to see Lo Celso starting, and I really want to see Richarlison starting, and I'm kind of messing around, and I'm going with 3 at the back instead of the usual back 4, because just that issue that we have on the left. Royale is, I mean, we've said everything we need to say about Royale. Obviously, there's a lot of respect for him, but he's just not performing the function that we need. And I'm going to put have 3 at the back with Van de Ven, Romero, and Dragusin on the right of the 3. And I think I'm not happy about the players I'm putting in front, but I would have Basuma with Porro and Lo Celso kind of like covering that area, and we need the width from Son, Johnson, Madison playing at 10, and Richarlison up top. So it's kind of a 3-3-4. It's a bit cavalier. It's probably not very sensible. It's me knowing that I don't have all of the fan base on my back getting out. But I just think that I don't expect that will be the team, right? That's just what I would do, because I think there's players who are just not getting the opportunity. I feel there's a lot of talk about Dragusin over the last week, and I think putting Van de Ven at left back is a bit mental. But I don't know how else I don't know how you're getting Dragusin other than changing the formation, and I just don't see the point in playing Royale. I just don't see the point in it. Unless it just sort of stays in this bloody box the whole game, but that's never going to happen with Ange. So yeah, really hope Lo Celso starts as well. So yeah, I don't know.
I think that it doesn't make sense not to play Richarlison because we're not exactly, or we shouldn't be saving him for the City game. And I personally would play Dragusin against City. I'd give him, let him be exposed to Haaland. So I wouldn't play him against Burnley and might play, I don't know, someone like Skip. Because Skip did well, I thought, at the left back position. Give him a shot there versus Burnley. Because I think against Burnley, we are going to be on the front foot. So we don't necessarily need to worry about having too many people at the back. But I don't want to see Royale. I agree with you. I don't want to see Royale again playing for us. And I really hope Lo Celso starts. I really, really hope. And I like maybe the idea of what you came up with in the last pod of playing Bissouma, Madison, and Lo Celso.
Yeah, I think something's got to change. What's the point in putting in these guys like Royale who are clearly not going to be with us at this time, at the start of next season? So we may as well be tinkering and seeing what our options are. And Skip, it was a bit of a joke that he was playing a left wing back, but like we say, it's not like you've got a good option to choose from. So just choose the lesser of all evils, which is maybe playing Oliver Skip at left wing back, as crazy as that absolutely sounds. And it is absolutely crazy that we're at this point. And again, it's a topic of another day, but we desperately need to sign a backup wing back of some kind, a versatile wing back, because we can't be put into the situation next season, or it'll just be a repeat of this scenario all over again. So you guys, you're both on the drop Kulusevski side then of things right now.
Yeah.
And what do you think that means for him this summer then? Kind of looking a bit at that. Are you in the camp of keeping him?
I don't think he fits Ange, to be honest. I don't think I've said before, I don't think he fits the 10 role. And I don't think he's got the characteristics for the right wing role. And that's, again, not saying I think he's a bad player. I mean, you guys know I don't think that. I just don't think he fits what we're trying to do. And I would like us to go then for someone else to challenge Johnson for the right wing. So like a youngster like, Bakayoko or something like that for the right wing. But then, of course, we have the issues with homegrown. So maybe Olise, because Olise can cover both right and left, can't he?
Yeah, but I just can't see Elisa happening when Man United want him, Arsenal want him. Well, not Arsenal. Man United want him. There's links to City now. Who knows if that's true? Chelsea are linked to everyone. Multiple clubs abroad are linked with him. Newcastle are linked with him. It just...
But who can afford the 60 million that Palace won?
Well, the clubs that could afford it in the Premier League are pretty much Spurs, Arsenal, City, Liverpool, would you say? And Newcastle. That's about it.
Newcastle can't, I don't think, can they? Don't Newcastle have to sell even?
I haven't looked into how are the new rules into force next season? I can't remember now.
I'm not sure.
It's difficult to say, but anyway, there's going to be plenty of suitors, and he's openly a Man United fan apparently, and they'll for sure be looking to get rid of Anthony, won't they? Bring in a new manager and maybe bring in
they've
him.
got the problem that we have is who's going to take their unwanted players, and their unwanted players are on far higher salaries than our unwanted players.
But there was so I was reading the Swiss Ramble and Kieran Maguire were both saying so on social media yesterday that apparently the losses in the 21-22 season may be struck off from their Man United's PSR submissions because of the timings in which they submitted it. They managed to find a loophole and get around it. So they're suddenly going from being close to the buffers to having £90 million to spend plus whatever they can raise. So it would just be classic, wouldn't it? Again, that we're looking at a player and they're able to find a loophole to kind of gazump us there. Which would be disappointing. But anyway, back to the most depressing thing, the game at Burnley. We'll do a separate pod on all the transfers. Shall we dive into some predictions then, guys? Do you think you up for that?
Just when you before we do that, the Richarlison thing though, I didn't really directly address that like in any particular like depth, but there was a comment. I think it was Danny Kelly who were maybe getting frustrated by sometimes on the podcast View from the Lane podcast. But I did think there was an interesting point he made in the most recent pod when he was reflecting on the Liverpool game in terms of the effect that Richarlison's presence had on the other team, on his teammates, and I thought it was quite a good point, and I kind of concur that obviously he's got really high energy. He's not been as drained or as ever present as especially the likes of Sonny. And when he comes on and he's charging around and his intensity, it does, I think, lift the players around him. So I think that there's a benefit from obviously the class that he has as a finisher. I know that he's had a ropey, he's had ropey stretches of games, but he's actually been pretty good recently. And come straight back in. That's a class finish the other day, and he's getting himself into those positions. And I thought he was really good against Liverpool. So it is a bit of a no-brainer. And obviously we want to win on Saturday far more than we want to win on Tuesday. So it's going to be interesting. I know no doubt we'll talk about City after the Burnley game, but that is going to be really interesting. And I can only imagine that Ange is not going to give shit about the title situation, one assumes, because as much as he knows the supporters are very emotive about that subject, and most of us are probably very happy if we lose. In all honesty, I say that Ange is looking at that game in a different way from we are, and wanting to win both of them. But in terms of the game of Saturday, Richarlison has to start, and even the effect it might have on Son, because Son has been so bad for ages now, and it's really hard to watch. And after all of the amazing plaudits we've been giving him, not just recently, but over all of his time with us, it's becoming hard to ignore. And a bit like with Kulusevski, it's funny how we can shift around. I'd be much more open to him leaving, and I know you're kind of pragmatic about the Son question, Jim, in terms of his future and where he stands with Tottenham. And I'm more sympathetic to that. I was really completely adamant about that in the opposite direction, but it's really hard to watch Sonny at the moment, and
I just feel that the main reason people want to keep him is the sentimental attachment and the history of the guy. And it's like, if you could clone, I don't know, you could make him look like Brian Hill and trick the fans into thinking it was Brian Hill playing, not Son, for the last 5 games, you'd be saying, can we just sell this guy? Yeah. He's not up to standard. But because it's Sonny, because he's our captain, because he stayed through adversity, because he loves the badge, because he's loyal, because he's this huge figurehead globally, people are more desperate for him to work out than they are willing to accept it's time for maybe a 32-year-old. Clearly, and I hear people say, look, he's going to adapt his game. He's not that kind of player. He's not a Pirlo who just loses his pace and then goes, well, I'm a genius on the ball, I'm a very technical player. Sonny, whether we like it or not, his biggest strength, yes, it's finishing, but it was accompanied by this pace. Like when we beat Burnley and he ran through the whole team. That's never going to happen again with Sonny now. It's just and you know what? He could still have a great couple of years, but I think he needs to be playing in a system and for a club that suits how he's adapting and changing, and with a very technical manager who's just focusing on getting the best out of him. And Ange builds the team; he doesn't build it around an individual.
Yeah, I agree. Last season, if you remember, I was up for selling him along with Kane and Dyer and all the old guard, and then this summer, I got caught up with the sentimentality of him being captain, and he was scoring, and it was all the good vibes. We were winning. I was like, yeah, we can't ever get rid of him. He can retire. Yeah, now I'm back to now. We got to be pragmatic about it. It's all about the team.
Yeah.
We got to do what Fergie did: sell at the right time.
Exactly. You've got to, and we're not Man City rich, where we can be like, it's okay, we'll keep him for the vibes. We'll keep him around the training ground, and he can come on and make cameos when we're 3-0 up. We're just not that club. We are a club that if you don't move players on at the right time, you suffer as a football club because you don't have the money to then reinvest into the next wave of players. And it's not the end of the world. I get why people get sentimentally attached to it, and I am too in some ways. But at the same time, every time we've lost an amazing player, Hoddle, Klinsmann, Bale, Modric, Kane, there's
Gaza.
been others. Gaza, there will be others. Like, it's not like the last time. He will be, in 10 years' time, you'll have a new wave of fans being like, nah, he's not in my top 5 all-time Spurs players. These people are. I never even saw Son play. And we're going, he was amazing. And they go, what did he win? You know, all that starts again. And we're like, no, but he was... and even when you look at his goal record, and this sounds like I'm really bashing the guy because he's such a great servant to the club. But I think he's only scored 20 goals once in his Spurs career when he won the Golden Boot. I think we should look that up. But
yeah, but he didn't play as a striker, to be fair to him.
Yeah.
He played as a winger.
No, that's true. But I will look it up because I looked at his goal scoring stats the other day, and I was a bit like, oh, maybe here it is. So if we go by season, you've got time at Spurs. First season he got 4 goals. Second season 14, then 12, then 12, then 11. And then he had his best 2 seasons where he got 17 and 23, and then it's down to 10. But this season, actually, his goal stats are pretty good. He's on 17 goals. He's having his 3rd highest ever tally. But then so many of our player stats seem to be inflated from those first 10 games where we were just blowing teams.
If you think he was the left winger, and it won't be easy to find a left winger that scores 12 to 17 goals a season. I mean, those stats aren't bad at all if you consider his position.
No, they're not.
I mean, people are going, we know to bring in Nico Williams. Nico Williams, I don't think, scored more than 4 goals in a season.
No, exactly. And I think only 5 players have scored more than 20 goals in a season over the last 3 Premier League seasons. So it's not an easy thing to do. So we shouldn't take that away from him. But I don't want to fixate on him too much because I feel like I'm getting down a wormhole of making it a negative thing about Sonny Boy.
Yeah, the one thing I would just say to finish off on Son, but like against Liverpool, you know, if I had hair, I'd be tearing it out in the first half because he was as abject as he has been for ages. But in the second half, I don't know if it was after Richarlison came on, but he was doing an awful lot of he was taking on players and beating them. The trouble is he was trying to beat like 5 of them, so he would always run out of steam or run into a cul-de-sac. But there were a fair few little moments we thought, oh, that's really good, and he's doing things that lots of players couldn't do, but he's still just not releasing the ball very quickly, and that's an issue we have all around the edge of the box with the congestion in every single game, and it's like just keeping the ball. The ball's just not being delivered quick enough, and there's not the space, and he's still not taking on shots. So there's still a lot of issues, but there were a few. I'm just trying to grab hold of some positives when I see them, because there were little glimmers there that maybe on Saturday when he's got a bit more space in front of him, it could be a game that actually does suit him more.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the thing. He's still good when there's space, but he's not technical enough in closed spaces. And I looked again at the highlights of the Liverpool game because I too was trying to find something to cling on to. And he did some dribbles, but he's still, the couple of times he could have played in Richarlison, and he kind of was doing Lucas Moura of just dribbling until he hit the 5th or 6th defender and took the ball off him. But I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the world if he was still here next season, as long as we had another left winger. But he shouldn't be the striker. I think he's proven.
Yeah, it's. I think that the way I'd look at it in the window is Kulusevski, Son, Bissouma, all those kind of names that are banded around. People are saying sell. I'm not really on that bandwagon. I'm saying keep these guys in the squad, but just improve on them, because if you look at how many players we've got to sell, we've got so many players that need to go before those go. Son is not the problem. The problem is having no left winger. The problem is not having a good enough number 6. The problem is still not really having a right winger that is... Johnson's getting better, but I still don't think he's that level yet to start every week and give us those performances we all demand. Richarlison, again, he's another one in that camp with Lo Celso and Bissouma and Son that I wouldn't sell any of these guys. You want them as your second choice, that when we go into a Europa League game and we rotate, it's not Brian Hill playing, it's Heung-min Son and Richarlison up front, not Brian Hill and Dane Scarlett. And that's when you start to get through those kind of tournaments. We should be looking to sell, who have we got? We've got Troy Parrott, we've got Dane Scarlett, Tanganga, we've got Rodon, we've got Ndombele, we've got Brian Hill. Who is that?
Reguilon.
It's Spence.
Reguilon, we've got Spence. Guys, we've got 10 players we need to get rid of before we start looking at Heung-min Son as someone that should be sold. And we're not going to get much money from him anyway. I think it is age that's going to move the needle. So keep Sonny and Richie and give them another chance. And Basuma, Celso wants to go, so sell him. But sell those 9 players we've listed off. And let's...
Højbjerg.
Yeah, Højbjerg, that's the 10th. There you go. It's so many more priorities ahead of those guys. We shouldn't be pointing the finger and blaming them for the issues at all. But I wanted to do some quick predictions, then quickly touch on Ange's interview, because he did quite an interesting conversation recently. I forget which network it was with.
Optus.
But it was Optus Sport, yeah. But actually, let's do the predictions at the end. It's a nice tradition. We'll stick with that. But have you both watched the interview?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go on, Stu. What are your thoughts?
Go on, John. He's the first. He's not our Ange lover, so.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Like, I watched it, but I wasn't watching it and thinking about talking about it, like, which is pretty stupid of me. But I mean, I thought there were some interesting things. The things that stand out, looking back on it, were I liked when he was talking about the context, and I know it's something that's come up a few times over the year, but I think, and we're going on the same stuff, like about the fact that, the start raised the expectations and all of that thing. But he was kind of, again, just emphasizing the fact that wasn't a real situation, that was a very false kind of presentation of the reality, and that when you're looking at where we were before, scary man. That I thought that was he doesn't come across like, there's all of these really derogatory comments going around about Ange from a fairly substantial number of sources now, which is really annoying and upsetting. Like, for me, that's really
Me too. It annoys me.
All this farmer, like, being a PE teacher, or and he's just come from Scotland and he's used to beating Ross County and St Mirren and all that kind of stuff. It's like, that is so disrespectful, and I think that he's not, doesn't seem to be ruffled by that. I don't think that people are trying to say he's looking out of his depth and stuff like that. I thought that it was another sort of reassurance in terms of his presence and his belief in what he's doing. And I thought there was a confidence about how he was just looking at the bigger picture, and all of this stuff that we kind of, I think we hold to be true, and just with the fact that it's a journey, it's a project, and it's going to take time to turn things around, to get the mentality established. But he is going to stick with the philosophy. I like also the way that he's very fair and understanding about the fans, and he accepts and understands why there's frustration and what fans have the right to expect to kind of win every game, and or that it's what every football supporter wants. But I think that he's kind of managed to temper that with being realistic as well. And I just thought that that was the sort of vibe that I took away. That those were the things that I was, just as a fan, I think a lot of the time at the start of the season, we were really raving about just the way that he carries himself, the way he presents himself, the confidence he has in himself, and that he kind of talked about the present situation, having said that we would be in situations like this. And he wasn't surprised that we're in a situation like this. And, it's something that you just have to kind of face up to and move forward from. But that was the main thing I took, just that he has that confidence.
I loved that he was calm about the whole thing. As you said, he referred, and it's something I think a lot of people forget, but from the beginning he was very clear that it wasn't all going to be rosy, and there were going to be bumps in the road. It was going to take many windows. This wasn't his final squad, and I think we all got a bit carried away by the great 10 games to start the season. But he was very reassuring. I love the fact that he still wasn't throwing any players under the bus. He was calm. He's putting it all on his own shoulders, saying it's up to me to convince the players. It's up to me to convince the club and the coaches. It's up to me to convince the fans, even if they're losing a little bit of confidence. It's all, saying he came across as someone who's very self-assured, who was very confident in the path that we're on. He doesn't show any signs of panic that things are derailed and, it's getting a little bit out of control, but very kind of, this is what I was expecting. As he's mentioned previously in interviews, we've already started planning for the summer. He's had a season now to evaluate who's good enough to stay, who's not, and what changes he needs to make. And I was thinking, yeah, good on him. He came across, and I hope people have listened to it with an open mind and feel a little bit more reassured. And we get 2 wins out of the last 3 to make everyone feel even more confident.
Agree. And I, like you said, I like that he takes full responsibility for everything, but he also was setting the players up, I felt, for this kind of like, you're not all going to like what's coming in the summer. And I'm also setting the fans, and to me there were some poignant messages in there where he was as much saying to the fans that he's kind of warning them that players they may like might not be a part of this journey, and they might want to be a part of this journey, but they might not still be a part of this journey. And I think that's saying that some of your favourites are going to go. I know it could be anything. I know we've talked about Sonny earlier, but it could also be Ben Davies. Like, he might assume fans are a bit more attached to Ben, and we all like Ben. We all think, I think he'll always be a player that you hope comes back to Spurs, does the halftime stuff, and a bit like when Dyer's left. Some people were arses about Dyer, but the majority of us are like, yeah, you're a legend. We're going to sing your name whenever you come back. We hope you come watch Spurs games. I think Ben Davies, but that hopefully becomes a coach at Spurs, that kind of character. But fans, I think the same set of fans, like there's 80% of us are all on board with that. Like, so I'm not saying you're insane if you're not on board with that. You're completely entitled to not want Ange and not want this journey. That's cool. Sure. That's fine. But I think the majority are behind him.
He was saying that the fact that we've lost 4 in a row, obviously everyone's been really challenged by it. There's a lot of scrutiny on everything that's going on, the system, the players' ability, and so on. And it's the same as in any sphere of life. When you're under that sort of pressure, how you respond to it is so important. And he was very open about the fact that he kind of relishes in a weird way that the fact that you get to learn so much about the individual players, how they react to that situation, because he was again putting a positive spin on that too, because he was saying, maybe in a year's time we're under pressure and going through moments like this when you're in a different situation, like there's a title push, and he had mentioned that he had the bravery to say that out loud, which some people might, the people who are his detractors might be laughing out loud and thinking he's delusional. Maybe we don't, and he still has that ambition and still very publicly or very openly articulating the fact that he that's where he wants to be with this with the club, and like I think that's another thing that goes with the reason that he's taken on the Spurs job in the first, because obviously, yes, he is a huge club, but there's a great deal of potential for lots of reasons. For somebody who's not got an affiliation with the club, it's a very tempting project in many ways, but it's also a really challenging one given the length of time we've gone without lifting anything. And I think that demonstrates an aspect of Ange's character that actually will be a really strong asset for us in like this sort of situation and going forward, when hopefully we are in facing pressure for reasons where the stakes are even higher. Because at the moment, the stakes are finishing 5th. He wants to be in a situation where Arsenal are now, or where Liverpool have been over the last few years. So that's great to hear your manager, even when he's being taken over the hot coals by some people, that he still has that level of belief, and he doesn't come across like a joke. He comes across very convincingly.
He's just trying to get that mentality into the football club, and we've all said we need it as a football club. We don't want to set those targets of 3rd, 4th, 5th as the outcome. And clubs like, why do Man United still win stuff when they're rubbish? Well, it's because there's that culture of, we've done this before, we can do it again. And he's going to got this hardest thing of, when we did it before was so long ago, those people aren't in the club anymore. And he's like, how do I get you back to that? How do I get you all saying out loud in the office at Hotspur Way when I go in the morning, like, we can win the title, what, all working together towards that movement? What's marginal gains we're looking forward today to do that? And just that installing across the whole club. And I hate to praise Lego Head, but he's made a massive effort to do that. Yeah. All this cheesy stuff, even the Labradors are part of this, and it does shine through. And I know his methods are weird, but Ange is doing it in a more adult way at Spurs.
You look at Real Madrid last night, and I was sitting there beside Kieran watching the game, and when he took off Kane especially, I was thinking, what are you doing, Tuchel, that you are off your head? Because there's still there's going to be more than 10 minutes to go. There's 6 minutes left of the 90. But I said, I was so sure that Real Madrid were going to score after that. And then when they got the goal, I said, they're going to win this before extra time. And it wasn't a surprise. Look what they did, the same thing against City a couple of years ago in the semi-final. I mean, that is just a team. Ancelotti's there, standing there in the sidelines, and he just oozes confidence. It's just not like this. That man is not sweating anything. He's there in his three-piece suit. And then you see the interview afterwards with Bellingham, who's only just arrived this season. I mean, he's an incredible young talent. But this guy is just a few years ago, in school in Birmingham, there he is in his first season as a huge signing for Real Madrid. And he's talking about the being a Los Blanco, that as if he's been there all his life. That he's part, like you just said there, Jim, it's just something that he is bought into, and that he is say we always find a way. We always find a way. You're only there 5 minutes, mate. But that's the sort of level of sort of buy-in that you've got, and nobody in the world is surprised at what Madrid did last night. And it obviously takes a huge amount of time, and we're a long, long, long way off that, right? But you're not going to get there without figures like Ange along the way who take it really seriously and actually it's not about you're right. It's not about finishing in the top four or anything like that. I mean, you can laugh at us if you like, but this is what we've been waiting for, and I think we just have to. I know we all still believe in what he's trying to do, and I hope that and I think that enough of the players do. Imagine working with him. It would be really interesting to see. I mean, my friend Scott's been and seeing him taking the sessions when he was Celtic manager, and spoken with him and being listened to Q&As and stuff. It's he just says he's got a presence, and that's coming across even with every level of interaction he's got, whether it's the fans who are the kids who aren't well, the way he conducts himself with them, all the way through even with the opposition officials and stuff like that. I just think I think he is brilliant, and I just think I think we're going to be proven right. I'm still really confident we're going to be proven right. Sorry.
I think it's a shame that Sai's not here, because a year ago we did a pod about change management and what it was needed and how much time was needed to change the philosophy in a team, in a company, whatever you want to call it. And whether we like it or not, modern football is a business, and you need to change the culture. And it takes time. And a year ago, everyone was sick and tired, pulling out quotes of, we haven't had a manager start and finish a season for 5 years. We need to stop chopping and changing. We need to have the painful rebuild that Pochettino spoke about 5-6 years ago. We've now finally need to do it. And before a season's even finished, a season we could potentially and possibly and probably should still finish 5th, everyone is already losing their shit. It's guys, let's hold our nerve. As Jim has said a million times, look what happened to Arteta and Klopp their first seasons. Let's hold our nerve, stick with it, and give it a go.
I'd even hold our nerve next season. I don't expect anything more than a more convincing and consistent performances and finishing 4th or 5th. And then it'll be the third season. I think we'll go for something major.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's such a shame. I think the most underrated injury we had this season was Perisic, because we were talking earlier about that experience you need. He's won stuff.
Yeah,
he was playing. Now having him in the dressing room, and we mentioned on Madrid as well. That's why they keep 38-year-old Modric. You bring him on these games, and even if he can't do it himself anymore, he knows what the team needs to do to win the game, and he's just not sweating with fear and nerves. He's just looking at a load of younger players running around, you're bricking it, I'm not. I've been here 100 times, and I know what we need to do to make sure we are the ones that come out and win this game. And that's, again, what I would love it if we went back and said to someone like Modric, 12-month deal, you're going to come off the bench and play the odd 20 minutes, but the value of you in the dressing room to kind of have that Perisic type role. You know, we saw Perisic at the start when I think it was Sessegnon coming on or something when he wasn't injured, and Perisic was like shouting in his ear, being like telling him exactly what to do, where to play, and he, you know, that's a wing back looking up to a wing back in saying I've done it before. But we do need to quickly wrap up with the predictions, guys. That's
Just
right.
wanted one last thing. It's the same thing, if you remember, that's kind of started the whole revolution with Davids. When you bring in a winner with experience, and he wasn't particularly good anymore, but that experience that he gave to the rest of the squad and the ethic of the training that he gave to the squad about setting standards of what's needed if you want to reach the top. And I think that's something maybe we need to look at in the summer as well.
Yeah. Ange needs an ally in the dressing room who goes, listen to him. He's right. And says to the club, this guy's right. This is how you win stuff. I think at the moment he's waving the flag on his own a bit, and he's feeling a bit like, really, the fans don't quite not all of them are on board. Not all the players are on board. Not everyone in the boardroom's on board. Oh, this is so frustrating. I've got kind of camps of people who are backing me and camps of people who aren't. But predictions, guys. Burnley, Stu, what do you reckon?
I'm going to go for a convincing 3-0 win.
Oof. Jonny?
I'm caught between 3-1 and 4-1. I just feel like I'm going to say 4-1 because that's it's supposed to be sunny on Saturday. Finally get to wear actual Spurs t-shirt to the shirt to the game and beers, and yeah, it's going to be good. I'm going to say 4-1, and because we can't keep a clean sheet. I hope Stu's right. I'd rather have 3-0 than 4-1, but yeah, it'd be great.
Well, I don't think we're capable of scoring 3 goals in open play. I don't think we're capable of scoring a set piece or having a clean sheet, but I think we'll win. We've done it, but we needed a lot of luck. I'm going to go for the standards I always say, 1-0 down at half time, everyone being misery, every WhatsApp group pinging off, every pundit saying Ange is a fraud, blah, blah, blah. And then 1-1 right as the first half starts, and then me to leave the ground and hear us celebrating a 98th minute winner. No, I'll be there. I'll be staying there. I'll be staying right at the end. Wow. But yeah, I'm going to go for a very late 2-1 and us to go. We've done enough to secure 5th. Now we can relax in the City game and go on with an open mind. And look, if Arsenal lose this weekend, I'd love it because then we can all collectively support ourselves.
Yes.
So yeah,
pretty unlikely. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But yeah, I know. But there you go. Up the Spurs, guys.
Count on you, Spurs.
Count on you, Spurs.